Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey Podcast, a podcast where me and my brother Charlie talk about English ice hockey. And today we have got our first team special going into next season, and that is the whole Seahawks team special. And we are delighted to be joined by Dan again. It's been a
Yeah,
couple of weeks. You're back, Dan.
it's been about a year, isn't it? Something like that.
Feels like a while, but you're back on the podcast for the first team episode. We got Charlie as well. Did you enjoy the holiday, Charlie?
Not delighted for me, but you know, got to be how it is. Yeah, it was a good holiday. It was nice. It
Yeah,
was
it was
good,
very, very
relaxing.
hot. We are delighted as well to have an interview of Matty Davies. We're actually interviewing him on Monday. So this should come out on Tuesday, possibly. But we're actually recording this on the Saturday. So yeah, we want to get the team specials out because we're less than a month. Well, actually, literally a month away from the first preseason friendlies. So if you are new, we did do some team previews or team specials last season. And we're going to do it a similar way this season. We're going to look back at last season, how it went for them. We're going to look at their roster now, their expectations for next season, and also a ones to watch from each of us for next season from their roster. So yeah, lads, shall we crack into it then? And we'll probably cut to the Matty Davies interview after we previewed last season, which we'll do now. Matty Davies interview, and then we'll look ahead to next season and their roster. So yeah, let's get into it then. So last season, the whole Seahawks, they finished fourth spot behind the Swindon Wildcats. And they made it to a cup final. They did lose in that cup final to Milton Keynes in the second leg. It was quite a blowover. Dan, how did you think their season went? It was a much improved season, wasn't it?
Yeah, they said it was going to be, and they definitely recruited really well.
Yeah,
Um, we obviously know their biggest problem is probably their defense. They just didn't have the depth in D um, to obviously compete in this league because it's got very intense and the skill level's gone up.
yeah,
So you do need, even if they're not the best D men, you just need that depth just to give your top guys a bit of a rest.
yeah.
The forwards, I thought they did really good. I think obviously bringing in Subjack as well. Bobby Young didn't really work out, but
Yeah, I
they
was
sort
just
of
going to
replaced
mention that.
him.
So they started the season off with Svek, Bobby Young, and Bartholomew. Bobby Young, he got 27 points in 30 games. He had quite high expectations with his CV and the background he played in. But Matty Davies took the risk. Bobby Young went back. We don't know the specific details, but they brought in Sobchat midway through the season. And I'd say, Charlie, it probably did work out, didn't it? He had one of the highest points per game in the season, and he really made an impact. He had 48 points in 19 games. He actually had the highest points per game, didn't he?
Yeah, Subjack was really good when he came in, and he made that impact. In the cup final, I think he played the cup semi-final.
Yeah,
Yeah, he I don't know, he made that top line one of the most lethal lines in the
yeah,
league.
he did. Just going through their points from last season, Emil Svek, he got 111 points. We know he's a goal scorer. He actually got 56 goals, 55 assists. And I think six or seven of them come against Bristol in that one game, Dan, where he just seemed to score or get a point on every single goal they scored against them. But he just suits Hull a bit more than he did at Swindon, doesn't he? He's kind of their man. He's the main man with the goals, isn't he?
Well, he likes, obviously, like you said, he likes the offensive play. He's not really that sort of two-way forward that comes back. But
Yeah,
whole love that about him, the fact that he can put a puck in the net.
yeah.
Um, as long as you put him with the right players, you've got a perfect goal scorer there, and
Yeah.
that's Hull seem to use him to his best, and yeah, it seems to be working out for them. And Spec.
Absolutely. Matty Davies before the season made two quite big predictions. He said, one, they're going to be a team, look out for them in the cups, and we'll go on to the playoffs in a bit. But the cups specifically, he said, look out for them. And he also said about Brock Bartholomew, watch out for Brock. He is going to be, in my opinion, the best defenseman this season. He finished with the most points by a defenseman by quite a chunk with 63. He scored 23 goals as a D man, which was just ridiculous. I don't think we've ever seen a defenseman as forward, as attacking, as well rounded attacking since. I don't even know. I can't even think. Sam Jones was quite good, but his numbers are even better than Sam Jones, and that was NHL one. So yeah, he was ridiculous, wasn't he, Charlie? And yeah, he's kind of set the tone for attacking defensemen in this league.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Brock go up to the elite league actually this
Oh,
year, but he didn't. I think Brock was brilliant. He really was that guy. And I actually think Brock could have done even better if he wasn't played as much. It's silly, but I think at times we saw Brock burn out at the end of the year. And I actually think Brock would have done better if he had played maybe 23 minutes a night instead of probably near
23 to 25. He was probably playing up to half an hour a game.
He was probably playing higher than that, to be fair. And Brock was a huge part of that team. And probably for me, if I was to give a player of the season for them, I would give it to Brock.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he was just unbelievable. And I think that'd be a huge loss this year. You're losing 60 points from the back end. As we know, they've brought in a good replacement, but I don't think they'll get that offensive output from any of their D this year. And so losing Brock is a big miss to the team. And I think for me, he was the top 3 defenseman in the league, and offensively, he was on another level to any other defense.
Yeah, he's the best offensive defenseman we've seen. He was quite good defensively. We're not saying he wasn't very good. And Dan, this is my next point. I think firepower-wise, goal scoring, they're absolutely fine. You got Svek, Ulrich, Chamberlain, Bartholomew, Barmer, Sobchak, Salem, Bonner. They're all getting points. Points wasn't a problem for Hull. It was more the D, and it wasn't necessarily they didn't have great D-men. They just didn't have enough, did they? They were going into some games with 4. They were going into some games with 5. And as Charlie said, it just seemed like they just burnt out by the end. And Brock, in that cup final, the first leg I thought he was really, really good. The second leg, he on the big ice rink, he was trying to do everything, go up and down, and you could just see he was burning out. And after a long, long season, I think it really caught up to him, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, the depth is not only because they're getting tired. Also, these forwards aren't stupid. They're playing against the same D-men for 30 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And they're going to know how they play. They're going to know their weaknesses. You don't have them roll of lines to sort of change it up a bit from the back. You're playing against the same stuff. So you get found out quite easily like that. And I think that was their biggest issue.
Yeah, absolutely. They had quite a few
one
injuries.
of the problems they had as well was they had a few injuries, but also what's his name? Liam Danskin left after 11
games. Yeah, that's a good point.
And he was meant to be one of the bigger ND men, and Stubley was injured for a period of time as well.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't really be fully healthy the whole year. And they're not the biggest of depthy squads as it is.
Yeah.
They kind of needed their full squad. And then when you lose players from a squad which is already slightly shallower, it became very difficult at times.
Yeah, I agree. And then obviously, finally, the playoffs. Obviously, they got that game against Peterborough. It went to overtime. Luke Ferrara put the nail in the coffin. And they didn't get through to Coventry. And again, I think it was just due to being a bit burnt out. That first weekend was so important against Leeds, and they couldn't quite pick up a result, which they did in the semi-final, Dan, when they had a lot more energy, a lot more players. And it was just a different 2 games, wasn't it? And Leeds come out on top and they comfortably beat them. And I think going into next season, Matty has built a better defensive core, which we'll go into in a bit. But I think he's going to add a couple more players as well, because he has lost a few, but he's also added a couple few. I think he needs to add a few more as well, just to get that depth going into next season.
Yeah, maybe like a few 2-ways as well. A few young guys get their chance, give them a bit of firepower, and the young guys from the bottom 6. Just stuff like that. It's just he's going to learn from last season and from a very positive season as well, from every angle.
Yeah.
So it's only going to really get better, I think, for Hull, and they're definitely going to be a team to watch again.
Yeah. Finally, before we do get into the Matty Davies interview, a couple of positives. A lot of the young guys did get quite a lot of ice time. Obviously, Owen Brutton, he's been there the past couple seasons. He got 10 goals, 18 points. We saw Declan Jones come up a bit near the end of the season. He got 8 goals, 5 assists. And for third, fourth liners, that's not bad points for such young lads as well. And then obviously little Reece Edwards, he got 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points in 26 games. So it's quite a positive, Charlie, to see that Matty as a coach is still trusting on those young players, and they're only going to get better as well. And they are quite talented.
Yeah, they had some really bright spots in their team last year. And yeah, they've got some talent down there. I thought, what's his name? I'm just looking for him now. Deck Jones. I thought he ended the season in the last third really, really well. He was phenomenal in the last third of the season. Obviously, Owen Brutton had a great year, and I think he'll want to improve on his 18 points. And a player who I think you have to mention at times, maybe slightly underachieved. I thought Lee Bonner didn't have a great year for his standard.
Yeah,
Lee Bonner only scored 27 points in 43 games.
I think he did get a big injury, but as you said, we've seen him
me, I've seen Lee Bonner play a lot better than that, and I think Lee Bonner is a player who, to me, I've always seen him as a minimum point a game guy, and I think next year he'll want to definitely take up maybe some of the gaps left by Salem and Towner by Lee Bonner stepping in and upping his points tally again, because I think he can get more than 27 points in 43 games.
Absolutely. And yeah, we'll cut to the Matty Davies interview. Obviously, we haven't done it yet, but he's such a good speaker. He's one of the nicest guys, isn't he, Charlie, in hockey? He's always trying to help us. He said he's free for an interview whenever. So we'll cut to the interview. And then after the interview, we'll look at the roster they've got for next season. Hello and welcome back. We've got a special guest. He's coming back for his second podcast interview. Charlie, do you want to introduce him again?
We'd like to welcome onto the podcast a man who's going into his third season of coaching. Last year, he made the cup final, but this year he wants trophies and he's hungry for them. So we'd like to welcome back Matty Davies for the second time. How are we doing?
I'm good, lads. I appreciate it coming on. Enjoyed it last time, and I always enjoy listening to you boys. So, yeah, let's do it, mate. Let's do it.
There was only one man we needed back for the whole special, and I'm sure you've got a lot to say on a lot of new players coming in and quite a few outgoings as well. But we'll start off. How's the off season been? Obviously, I've seen there's quite a few back in training. McLaughlin was saying you're on the ice quite a lot as well.
Yeah, it's been good. I think we, I guess, sort of like Aaron did this as well. I mean, he always does this, but trying to just get the lads back early. We sort of, especially towards I guess the last month, I suppose it's obviously there's been a lot going on in terms of, like Sheffield and, some more signings and people going, we sort of did our bits early on.
Straight away, yeah.
Yeah, just, the ones that, same, as Aaron, you want the ones that you want back, the probably from the area or, just in, the imports. So yeah, we just got that out of the way, mate, and sort of, then just built around it, and we've sort of dripped him out here and there. But yeah, other than that, we've been good, mate. We've been on the ice pretty much all the way, through June, July, just once a week. We start twice a week next week, so yeah, it's getting there, mate, and then we'll go to 3 times a week, sort of middle end of August, and like I said, boys will be ready.
Nice one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say, personally, from a podcast point of view, this is my first time interviewing you. Thank you for being a very accommodating club. Last year, Hull were very nice to us. They gave us a little VIP ticket from one of the sponsors, I believe. And yeah, you're just always very kind to us whenever we went down, and your players are nice as well. So thank you from the Macca's Talk Hockey.
No, look, lads, we appreciate it. I think more of this stuff's the better. I've said it a few times to a few people, like, you guys are doing great stuff. And we're trying to do our bit, with the podcast stuff. And I think at times, especially myself anyway, I can feel, we do talk a lot, I guess. And you end up saying, similar stuff a lot of the time. But I think, for me, knowing fans and being in the game for so long, fans they love it. You know what I mean? Like, I do. I listen to, as much as I can listen to as well. Just enjoy it. You enjoy the game. We want to know about what's going on. And I think what I love about you two, and why I always listen to you guys is, you're just fully behind this league. And I think that's, so it's a breath of fresh air, mate, because I think, you two, are trying to make this league as good as we think it is, but also as good as the owners and the players and the coaches are trying to make this league as well. And this sort of thing, really helps, and I listened to you one last week about, the Elite League and bits and bobs. And I think it was interesting, what you said about, like, if you are listening for the first time, if you're an Elite League fan, then, obviously that was an interesting one to listen to, but just in general, it's good for, I guess the Elite League fans. I think a lot of, we get a bit of a bad rap at times,
they underestimate us.
Yeah, I think they do, mate. Yeah, I think they do. And look, it's the top league, and you can understand, big clubs like, Cardiff, Sheffield, Nottingham, you understand it. But I think what I don't like about the underestimation is just how like clubs have been around for so long. I always say this about Steve now, but it's only because I've played for Steve I realise how good of an owner he is. And I think it should never be underestimated what these owners and these teams have been able to do in this league for so long. The EPL days, then coming into all the shit after COVID. Let's be honest, that was a mess. And then for these teams to keep it going and to come out of it, and I think this league's as strong as it's ever been now. So.
And as much as fans do moan about a few things, I'm sure there's a few things which the league can change, and which you as well as a coach want the league to change and go in the right direction. But as you said, there is a lot of positives. The way the league has gone since the NHL 1 days, where you guys were smashing teams in the NHL 1 like 15-16-0. So I think the standard it's at is very good. What do you make of the 3 import situation this season? I think a lot of people have said it's the right amount at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky balance, right? Because I think, going sort of back a few years before sort of, the COVID stuff, I think, that league I played in Telford, last year of the EPL, that was a really good league.
Very competitive. Yeah.
That was a really good league. And I think, why that was probably a good league was more than just the fact there was 5 imports. I think what we did have, I think you boys mentioned it the other week, but there was a lot of import goalies in the league. And I know that's a hot topic at the minute, but I think what you can't deny is, look, when you do get better goalies in general, whether they're good British goalies or import goalies, the level really does rise.
Yep.
And what we saw at that level at that time was, it was a tough night every night. No matter, there was teams that had better teams. We was a good team at that point, and MK was still really good, and Swindon were good. But I think, when you went up against a team that had an import goalie, it was a difficult night in general because there was some really good goalies in that
Orzin
league.
Sticks out for Peterborough.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he was a nutcase, wasn't he? But really, really good.
He was good, yeah.
Very good goalie. So, yeah, I think where we are at the minute, I think, you could keep saying, yeah, we need 1 more and 4 and all that. But I think what you need to try and remember as fans is, we want this league to stay. What we don't want is to see what happened last time. And I think, right now, this is where we need to be at. The biggest key for I guess the fans listening that maybe, might not know that, look, the owners obviously, look, everyone's got their own, business at the end of the day, and they all want their teams to do really well. Yeah. But I think what they don't realise is how much the owners are actually in the same boat with wanting this league to still thrive and be here. So, yeah, when you go on the ice match night, yeah, we all want to beat each other. But genuinely, like when Monday comes around, I think everyone's on the same team, the owners side of it, because we all want to help each other because we all want this league to stay, right? So I think everyone sort of maybe misses that a little bit, that, the owners in this league are really behind each other because we need them to be strong, every team, every business to be strong, so that we can stay and still get better, every year. So I think right now three is right. And let's see, next year we'll see where we go. My biggest thing is let's keep getting these elite league players. That's the biggest thing, I think, for me, because speaking honestly, look, imports are great, and we know what impact they can have. Malazinski is one that I will keep saying because of the longevity that we've seen.
Paddy as well. I know he's got a bit older, but he's been around for ages.
Yeah, true, and he's kept coming back and kept doing it, and just sort of a bit closer to home for me. But Emil obviously had his year in Swindon, and then he's been with me 2 years now, and then he's coming back, so it's his 4th year. So I think that's great to see that we've got these guys that are really, really top players in this league that keep coming back, and they like this league, if they want this league to progress and be a really good product. So I think that's great, but like I said before, I think for me, this league is about British players. And no matter what people think about, is it a feeder league? Is it development league? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It matters about the product that goes on the ice. So if we are a development league in terms of, we just talk about him because everyone does. But Kieran Brown, if this is a development phase for Kieran Brown to then go to the Elite League or to Europe, then great. But we've got Kieran Brown for 3, 4, 5 years of his prime career right now that we've seen him rip up this league. So if it is a development league for that, then great. Who cares? We've got this kid at this point, and he is the face of the league. Let's be honest. But for me, getting them players down from the Elite League, that just really does make not only the standard go up, but I think it sort of validates this league a little bit more every time that we get one more in this league. It just makes it like, oh, actually, these boys are actually taking this seriously and want to come and drop and play at this level.
It's not like Ferrara and Venus are old either. They're still, 29, 30 years old, so they're still in their prime years. Go on, Charlie.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think, to be honest, it is sending a statement that a lot of these players want to play in this league. I was going to move on to last season. I don't have to say much. Hit us. What were your positives? What were your negatives? What were you happy about? What were you annoyed about?
Well, I was annoyed. I'm always annoyed about something, but no. Look, I think I did sort of a season review maybe a month or two ago, and I think I needed a bit of time to probably digest what had happened last year because it was and everyone sort of look, and I'm fully aware of from the outside it's Hull have had a great second season from where we was. But my mindset is one of we have had a club in this level before in this league that has been probably one of the best at the time when we was and I know there was the NIHL one thing and all that, but even
it was a ridiculous team,
and I think people maybe don't realise how the fans in Hull they crave a winning team. I know everywhere does, but because we got spoilt for them couple of years, and obviously they also remember the Elite League days. Not that we was a winning team, but they've seen a really good level in Hull. Yeah. So these fans, they're not daft. They want to see us win games at this level. They want to see a real team that's going to really go out there and put on not only just to win games and to be sort of up there in the league, but I think, to have that brand of hockey that really is dominating in our own rink, especially. But everyone says that, you've got to win at home. But I mean, for me, sort of looking back at last year, it was sort of a thing of, I really wanted to implement sort of the style of hockey that, I personally, like, and sort of my coaching style has been, 2 years of doing this. But really, being a bit of a student of the game and really looking at a lot of, different teams and players and different things that, I do. It's something that I really wanted to get us sort of that blueprint and not shy away from that blueprint really ever. And it was, I know we had this heavy metal hockey sort of hashtag going around, but it was that sort of brand that I really wanted to bring to this level. And that is really good to see. And I think what we had last year was, I think in the end, I think we probably lacked that depth that you really need to win win at this level, whether it's the league or the cup or the the playoffs. And I think that's something that I've obviously tried and I think I've addressed in the summer. But I think this level is took a step again this year, and I think it's only going to be more difficult every night to win games. So looking at last year, I think we had a good year, and I think. What I was proud of from the lads is the fact that we didn't shy away from any of them big games.
No, didn't,
and where I was telling this to somebody else, but I think where we did fall away last year was genuinely the middle to lower end teams, them games that if we're being honest, it's them games that you think, you should win, or you should have a good chance of winning or take points away from. We dropped too many points in them games.
The Slough one at the end of the season stuck out actually, because you could just tell, I think it was a smaller rink and you guys just felt burnt out, I think, by the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think you two have spoke about this, but the amount of minutes that I had to play Deck and Brock, that there's no other way of doing it other than they're just going to get tired. There's just no chance of them. When we played 68 games, and when you're playing 30 minutes a night, and just the way, because we lost Hodgkinson sort of when we signed him.
Dan Skins at the start of the season. Charlie mentioned that.
Yeah, that sort of, so Danko leaving, that was a blow. But then because we got Josh in, I felt like I had a really good settled six. I had Barry and Hodgkinson as that third pairing. And when he left, it was a tough one because then I had Chile coming in. Chilcott came in and filled a role, of course, and he's been there and done it at this level before. But it just sort of knocked out our sort of rhythm, and I think where sort of our game was really important that we needed was Brock to be sort of at his full steam. And I think what we did lack and what Brock sort of really struggled with, I think at the end was dominating them games offensively. When we was really good, I think you boys came to the game. I think we played you guys in Hull. And Brock, I think he scored after like 10 seconds or something.
10 seconds into the game. That was a very good performance.
So like that sort of game was how I like to really see us play last year. And I think with that style, I think would have been really difficult to beat for any team. But what we had there was three pair in the D, and it allowed Brock to play that more offensive role. Coming up against MK in the final, I had to play Deck and Brock against them lines, and the Herman line, and look, they were obviously they're a wagon. Everyone spoke about that, and they're so deep.
They did just turn up as well. Like everyone was just on it as well.
I'll be honest, and I've said this. I actually spoke to Tim Wallace not long after that game, and I'll be honest. I think the first game, we deserved to win that game. We took a really bad penalty late in that game, and that cost us a little bit. They got back in on the power play.
The goal straight from face-off, I think, as well.
But analysing that game back and the shots and where we got dangerous areas, I think, we definitely deserved to take that game. I think even if it was one goal, but I think psychologically losing that game going into the Tuesday night in MK was really hard for me to get the lads going for that one. I could just tell it was going to be a real tough one, and we tried our best. We took so many fans there, and it was great. It was a great occasion for the club in general. What you asked me there was generally how did it go. I think I remember that occasion as a whole was great for us to, as a club, to know that we can be back in them big games.
The support was brilliant, I thought. And you meant, I was going to ask at the start, but I'll just say the support, I think this season with all the media as well, I think it's just brought everyone a bit closer within Hull. And I think you really saw that on the final, them organising buses up to the games, people giving each other lifts and selling out that corner of the rink at MK. So I think what you've just said is, it's bang on.
Yeah, for sure, mate. It was me. I mean, we must have had maybe 300 people that went there, and it was disappointing on the night, and I struggled on the bench that night. That was probably the toughest night I've had as a coach, just because I felt sort of helpless, but I think some of the lads did at that time. And I'll be honest, going back to it, they were unreal in that game. MK, we couldn't have beat that team. There's no way on that night we would be in that team.
They were on it.
Defensively, they were unreal. They started fast. We just, their depth, their speed. We just couldn't live with them. And fair play to them. But like I say, going over the rest of the year, it was, we had the better of a lot of them big teams.
You did.
And that's what was disappointing, I think, coming out of it. But yeah.
obviously this season, you lost a few players. We'll touch on them first before we go on to the new players you brought in. We'll start with Brock. He is obviously the main man for you guys, and you talked about him a bit there. Yeah, he's going to go for bigger, better things. We haven't seen a defenseman like Brock. What do you have to say on him? Oh, Matty, I think the headphones.
Look, I think when I did first,
you're all good. You're all good.
Repeat what you said again at the start, mate.
I can edit it down, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'll go through it. So yeah, I mean, when I first signed, when I first signed Brock, I knew he was going to be a different player that we've seen at this level. And I said it, going back to it, I said he was going to be too good for this level. What I meant by that was not that he's too good to play at this level. I just meant that the kid was 22. I think when you're offensively that good as a D-man, and you can move that good laterally with the puck and be such a threat in their end, past this level, now look, if I'm being honest, Brock's skating at times. Do I think that might cause a concern going up in the levels? Then maybe. I tried to work with Brock quite a lot this year with that, and just working on his, just his speed out of the gate and sort of just knowing where to be before. But the kid was so smart. I mean, I've never worked with someone so skilled. So, he just knew where to be offensively on the ice. But what I think really did improve for Brock last year was his defensive game.
Yeah.
And purely just being in them minutes and playing against the best players every night, that just brought him to have to be that good, right? But he was so good with his stick. Him to work with, and like I said, I was trying to sign him back in November. So,
I'm sure you were.
It was, literally just trying to get him back from so early on, because I knew that, look, we had a special kid, but talking to him all the way through, and we was really close. My wife spoke to him a lot, and yeah, he was a great kid, and one day, who knows, I'd take him back in a heartbeat, and he was just one of them really good lads. He had time for everybody, and yeah, I mean, it was great for the league. I thought he sort of lighted that league apart last year, not just because of how good he was at times, but I think just seeing a D-man of that level come to this league, I think obviously what we've seen now is, teams are going to... Sorry.
Yeah, I was lagging a bit. Go on, Charlie.
I was just saying 23 goals from D. I don't think we've ever seen something as crazy as that. Just completely ripped apart, shooting from the blue line. And I wouldn't even say he's got the hardest shot. He just floated it in every time.
Yeah, it was a deadly floater.
Moving laterally and getting space, and just missing that first sort of like winger or someone coming out to block it. He's so smart at just putting them little shots in that, people are going to tip or it's going straight in. But yeah, look, he was great, and I think that's sort of saying, like, people coming in and trying to get that D-man, someone like that can have such an impact like Brock did. I think it's great, and I think we're going to see hopefully a couple more this year that are coming in.
Yeah, will be interesting to see which teams go with them. A couple who I think go under the radar, especially Mr. Toner. He is going to be a huge loss next season. I will say that. Yeah, what do you have to say about Toner and Salem?
Whenever you lose someone, like Sam Towner, that's been sort of such an instrumental part of, hockey and Hull for so long. Obviously, he had that year in Sheffield, after the COVID thing. But, the kid was, Hull through and through. And, he was the first person when I was, doing this team. He came around to my house and we sat down and talked about it. And, and he was just all in. He's a kid that literally, he goes all in and he puts his effort in every single night. He's a 7 every night. he might not ever get to that 8, that 9, but he's always a 7, never dips.
Consistent.
You're always getting, effort from him, and you can't replace someone like that. You literally just can't, and because of the way he plays and what he offers. And I think, look, for me, it's one of them where Towns couldn't give what this coming season because of what he's got going on off the ice. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want Sam to do this without sort of being able to be himself and put in all in. So it was just time for him, and he's got an opportunity off, in teaching, and he's going quite high up at the school. So good luck to him. And like I say, you can't replace him. I've got I think I've got as good a replacement as I think I could get for sort of where we are and sort of what I think the team needs, especially to that direct replacement for Towns for next year. So hopefully that that'll work out well for us. But yeah, like I say, you can't replace Towns. But did you say about Nath?
Well, I was just going to quickly touch on a point. I think that just shows as well, like, to fans, there is life outside of hockey as well. And it just shows as well for other players who go through all these part-time jobs, how much they commit to their jobs outside as well. And I think Sam's got a brilliant career outside of hockey, and I think that's proven that he can't come back next year because of he's got a life outside of hockey. So yeah.
It's tough, and obviously you get to a point where Sam's 30 and you have to weigh it up, right? You have to weigh up whether the job he has. It's so time consuming that it's just not to do. But some guys can still do it with their jobs, and that's just how it works.
And then obviously Nathan, it was quite a tough year for him, obviously with what happened as well. And I think he got so much support from not just Hull fans, but around the league. And that goes back to what you were saying about the fans coming together in the NIHL. But he still stuck with it, and he went to the end of the season. And I think that just shows his character as well.
Absolutely love him. When that first happened, he messaged me straight away when it happened in the morning. I was up early at the gym anyway, and he messaged me, and I was devastated for him. Obviously, we tried to do as much as we could for him, and we did. Got a GoFundMe going, and we tried to get him clothes from the club and a car sorted and things like that. And but it's just such a massive upheaval for him, and with his daughter as well, it was just such a tough one. And that was tough for him, and I think just sort of the start of the year was just one of them where he didn't quite get into his rhythm, and he was battling a couple of injuries as well that he couldn't quite shake off. But again, same as Towns, like Nath, you would never know. He just comes every night, he works his bag off, he puts in 100% effort every time he played for me. He always did, and like I say, like, he's a great kid, and sort of, I think where we're at as a team going into sort of, this next sort of phase, it's just how it is, right? I think we had that first year where Nath was sort of, he was a massive player for us, and he was clearly our best British player and sort of led us that year. And then last year we obviously improved a lot more, and then it's tough to get the balance right with the lines, and unfortunately Nath, at times I had to put him down on that third line, which that sort of bottom 6 role or bottom 3 role. But unfortunately we was fairly deep last year, and I think that's just sort of where the balance was. And next year it's even more so, right? And I think we've had to in depth and quality, and I think that's where, if we're looking at a Leeds team, what they really do have is basically 2 first lines, right? And same as Swindon, MK, they've all got really good 2 lines, and I've had to do the same, and I think just unfortunately where Nath sits in that, I just with someone like Lee Bonner, that's he's put up again, massive numbers in this league as well, and being a big player for Hull in the past, it's just a tough one. And I think, Nath felt it was best to move on and go to another club where he feels like he's going to get them top 6 minutes. So yeah, it's a tough one. I'd have had Nath back for sure, but I also wish him well, and if that's what he wants to do, then fair play to him.
Yeah, go on, Charlie. There's one final player as well.
Another guy who's left.
Charlie, come
Roll
on.
off.
Yes,
Tom Barry.
yes.
Baz.
And another one as well.
Barry and Ulrich.
Ulrich.
Yeah.
Oh, dear,
don't bring Finn up.
Oh, sorry, Matty.
No, I'm joking. I'm over it now. It took me 2 months or something, but I'm over it now. Look, Baz and Finn are, two totally different things, I think. So Baz, great lad. Purely with Baz, it just couldn't commit. Obviously, he lives in Sheffield. He's actually got a really successful business outside of hockey, plumbing business. He's got a lot of work on next year where he's going to be traveling a lot, and he literally just rang me. I knew about this quite a few months ago, so it wasn't something like it was sprung up on me or anything like that. Me and Baz was talking about it. And he just couldn't commit, and fair enough. That's again, the Sheffield and Hull, although it's only an hour, it's a long way when you've got to do that 3 times a week for training, or at least twice, and then you've got 2 games at the weekend. It's a lot.
Alongside another job as well.
He's got, he runs a business and he's got employees and stuff like that. So it's just tough for him. So that was that one. I just wish, he went, wish him well, no problem. He's a good lad, Baz,
yeah.
Lot of time. The Finn one, obviously we know where, sort of Sheffield are going with what they're trying to do. And look, obviously, if it is from a whole point of view, I think it's a Sheffield team. I'll say that. I think it's
sorry, it's cutting out a tiny bit, Matty.
Mm-hmm.
It's right. I can edit it as well.
I'll put you on. It's
there
them.
Oh, that's even better, I'd say.
Yeah, it's the headphones. Terrible. The Finn thing. Yeah, so Finn, obviously a little bit different. Obviously, look, Finn's, he's someone that he wants to play higher. He's still young. He came back to us. Obviously, had that 2-year year with Manchester, and I knew all along he wanted to try and get into that. That's just up that level a little bit more if he could. I helped him get into Sheffield that first year, and wanted him to be on the ice with them and skate every day and try and get into that role, and that was great for him. And I think, look, we know what Sheffield are obviously, are doing, and I think, my opinion of it from a whole point of view is great that, we've got a good Sheffield team. I think that's important, that we've got, that rivalry we've had for a long time, I think is good. And I think it's only going to be, better for Leeds, better for us. And I think that's a good rivalry to get going again. Now, I think, look, I don't think we'll know how it all lies until, we see
it happens, yeah.
Right, and I think there's probably a few of them lads there that all want to play for the Steelers or get chances for the Steelers, and who knows how that'll work. That's not for me to worry about. But yeah, I mean, I think the Finn one is tough because I really love Finn. I think he's a great kid. I still speak to him a lot. I still speak to his dad a lot, and without talking for Finn, I think that, this wasn't a decision, I guess, for, Seahawks to Steel Dogs. I think we all know that. I think this was a decision for him to try and better his career and try and get up to that elite league level, right? So,
and it seems like Steelers are willing to give him a chance. I think if from just a fan point of view, for me, I reckon he's on the top list for getting the most games this season. Obviously, we'll see how it goes competitive wise, but he was the first one signed, and he also played a couple last season as well, near the end of the season.
Yeah, I know Foxy really likes him.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great lad. I mean, he's great for them. I mean, he's bought a house in Sheffield.
Oh, nice.
So he moved there. He was living there last year and still, you know, training every day with them and then commuting to us. His mum and dad still living also. It wasn't too bad. He was, you know, staying
Yeah.
over and that. So but yeah, he really wants to do it. He wants to be a Steeler. And good luck to him. You know, I wish
Yeah.
him nothing but luck in that side of it. And I told him I'm not looking forward to coaching against him because you know it's gonna be a fierce one, obviously. But look, it's like I said before, it's a good rivalry to have, and I think what they're doing, obviously off the ice and on the ice, I think is good for the league. You know, so overall, I think it's positive.
But you have stolen a couple of Steel Dogs players. And Charlie, should we start with those ones?
Yeah, let's start off with the one who wound up Hull fans last year, but now typical Jason is with the fans who hated him last year. I love him. He's such a rat. He's amazing.
Yeah, he has like he's completed it, and he's completed the rat like level. Like I mean, even when he was in Hull, I mean, it was what he was doing for Hull against Sheffield was
Yeah.
the exact same. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, their fans elevated him then. Our fans loved him, you know, and
When he's on your team, you love him, but when
that's
he's
it.
not, you hate him.
Exactly same as Bobby and MK. You know,
Yeah.
it's all that sort of same thing. I think, you know, for me, playing with Huey for 3 years, I know exactly what he can do.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably maybe been an underrated signing from my point of view, because I think from what we saw last year from Huey, probably want, you know, near his level that we're
His
used to
best, yeah.
seeing. But knowing a little bit of what's gone on sort of on the inside there last year, I think it makes sense why he was like that. And plus, he had a couple of injuries as well that didn't help
Yeah, he
him.
did.
But Huey's got a lot of game left still. He's one of the smoothest, purest skaters I've played with. So that helps him with, you know, just muscle injuries and stuff like that, because he sort of just glides around the ice.
His IQ.
Yeah. I wish I was like that, mate, to be honest, because if I was like that, I'd still probably be
He'd still be
playing.
playing, yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, I think, and it more than just sort of what I know he'll bring in terms of, you know, production wise, it's what he's like off the ice as well. Like we just mentioned about being a rat, but he's a winner and he'll
Yeah,
do
he is.
anything. He'll do anything to win. And what, you know, that game in particular, what everyone was talking about is a Steel Dogs team came into Hull that should never beat us in the slightest. I'll be honest, last year, there's no way that team should beat our team last year, not in Hull. And honestly, he won that game on his own, purely
Yeah.
just by doing what he did. He wound the two guys up that we know get wound up. They got wound up and it backfired on us, and it gave them momentum, and they managed to capitalize and they beat us. And
Yeah.
that is the sort of thing that Huey knew we're a better team than them at that point. He has to do something different to try and win the game, and that's what he did.
He's a winner. He's a winner. He'll do anything it takes, even at
Everywhere.
38 or whatever it is.
Yeah. He's won everywhere, mate. He's won in the elite league. He's won at this level. He's won everywhere. So that was one of the biggest, you know, parts of it. And again, probably with the Haywood thing, if you're going to ask me about that.
Yeah.
On to the next
Were they quite easy to bring in?
Yeah, I mean, Huey was simple, that one. He really wanted to come to Hull, so that was sort of that one was easy. The Haywood one was a little bit more difficult because he wasn't sure on whether he was actually going to play or not.
Yeah.
You know, he was obviously his time was up in Sheffield. What he thought anyway, you know, he didn't want to go back there, and it was just deciding whether he could do it with his, you know, he's just had a child and all that sort of stuff. Same sort of thing, just commitment. But I think he sees what sort of team we've put together, and you know, I think, look, you know, as if
Could
he's
be a
got
big part of that.
Yeah, year 2 years left. Obviously, look, he's
Have
going
a
to
lot of fun in that team. He's going to be.
Well, he's literally built for a team like ours, isn't he? So,
He's arguably more of a rat than Jason,
he's the
actually.
biggest rat I've ever played with in my entire or seen.
I love it because he's so like obvious with it. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna fight you. I'm gonna chirp you. I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm gonna point at you. I'm gonna slash you in the wrist. I'm gonna slash you in the leg.
I'm
But
gonna
the one
push
thing
you
I'm
over.
not doing is giving you the
Never gonna fight.
niceness of dropping them.
Never fight, no.
Literally, like on the bench, I'm coaching against him last 2 years, and I'm literally laughing because I know exactly what he's doing. Because we all used to sit in the room and laugh about it, about how much of a rat he was and how much he's winding people up. And I'd just stand there just laughing at him, and then he'd come past the bench and like wink at me, and I'd be like,
Oh,
I
mate,
just
you're a
know, you know
player.
what I
You
mean?
just
I
want
just
to
know
absolutely ram
yeah,
him.
yeah. So
But you've
no,
got him this season,
yeah,
and I don't know about you, but for me, after watching him and seeing him play for the last years, he might not have the speed like he used to, but around the goal, he can use that ratty kind of element he's got, and he's also just very clever around the goal. I
yeah.
think that will help Jordan a lot, actually.
Yeah, massively. I think Hayward's another one of them that's quite underrated in my book. I think, he's someone again that's won a lot, and he's won wherever he's been. Hull, he wins Sheffield, he's won a load at Sheffield. So he's he's not the prettiest of skaters. He looks awkward at times, he looks slow,
Yeah.
but he gets it done. He really gets it done. He's very good with his stick. He knows his gap control's brilliant because he knows his skating's not the best. And he finds a way, mate. He finds a way to get it done. And he's a left-handed D-man, which is very difficult to find.
Yep.
And it fit the pairs that I really wanted. And yeah, like I say, I think he's going to be massive for us this year. So it was a no-brainer, and I think a massive signing for us.
We could talk about every single signing you've
Yeah.
got. We'll brush over the defense a bit, and we do have to talk about one because it is not John O'Phillips, sorry, Davy
Oh,
Phillips.
Yeah.
And it's a very I think it's a different signing to Brock. It's opposite ages. He's got a boatload of experience which he's going to bring. From a coach's point of view, what is he going to bring to your team, which you think will improve on even next season, even though you have lost a lot of points in Brock?
Yeah. What's he going to bring? To put it bluntly, he's the best defensive D-man in the league by a mile.
Fair enough. Well, we can't disagree with that.
Yeah, it's not even close. And it's Dave could have easily gone back to Elite League this year for the next 2 years, 3 years if he wanted to. He's someone that has not lost a step at all. He's still as in shape as he's been for the past 10, 15 years. He's someone that has played at a level that he knows exactly, his role and what he's good at, he knows penalty killing really, really well. He knows gap control. He knows, he knows the game really well. And that's a massive plus for all the D-men on our team that are going to pick up things from Dave. The sort of player that Dave is obviously very different to Brock, but what Dave is very good at is skating, and he can make a first pass. And in this league, what I find is that's one thing that some of the D do struggle with, especially the sort of lower end D.
I think Charlie said this before about that first pass, breakout pass.
Yeah, it's sort of without putting it sort of meanly to some of the D. I think simplicity is better, but them top leagues, what you see is the NHL is them D will wheel with a puck. They're so good at skating, and then it's off their stick and snap, and it's up to them forwards, and then they're gone. And Dave, that is literally Dave's game in a nutshell. Such a good skater, and he's really good with first pass, and that's going to be massive for our team. And I said it a couple of times, but our sort of the makeup of our team is different this year, and a lot of that was down to the Brock situation. We played very sort of offensively, sort of free with our D last year.
Definitely saw that style of play. I know you mentioned it earlier, but some not coaches, some teams you don't necessarily see a style of play. I think you stuck with it, and it did work quite a lot as well.
Yeah, and that was just down to the play, Brock and Deck and the players that we had, naturally. And I think Stubley is another one massively underrated, but offensively, Stubley's really good at rushing the puck. He's got great hands. Same thing. So, that style was sort of, the players that I had was sort of that in mind. And now Obviously, I think this year we've got better sort of in our top two lines and the third line, and I think we're better overall forward wise. So I think what I want is just the D to get that puck and snap it to the forwards. And I want the forwards on the puck, and I want us, creating and being dangerous. And
Using the width of your rink as well.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And I think just like I say, I think Dave just brings so much to the team.
Was it quite easy to get Davy Phillips, or was it a bit of grinding to get him?
It wasn't as easy as I'd have liked it to be. Obviously, me and Dave obviously go back since we were kids, so I've obviously known him a long time. Our families are friends. It's so in a sense it's all a little bit awkward at times, just trying to get that business actually done. And like I say, he had some really good offers from the Elite League. Some really, really good offers from the Elite League that he really potentially would have took. So it was a case of just trying to, get the full package to Dave and sort of know that this was for a long time. The coaching side of it as well. He wanted to start that. So that was something else that, I felt like it was time for.
Sorry about that. My laptop ran out of storage, but we are back. Matty, let's move on to the netminding. And it's safe to say you've got a very, very good pair of goalkeepers going into next season. Obviously, we had McLaughlin on the other week, and you brought in a veteran Dima. How's that going to work from a coach's point of view? And I think me and Charlie have said how much of a positive it actually is for you guys.
Yeah, look, I think for me, it's quite simple, really. I think we've signed one of the best goalies in the league, and that's always a positive. I've played against him for enough games and long enough to know that he's the real thing. And I think people may be seeing it as a negative. I think just need to sort of think about it in a sense of, look, Dima's 34, 35, and Geordie's still young. Geordie had a lot of pressure on him last year. To have to play every single night, and he didn't have that chance or option to have a night off, basically, because we couldn't always get Angus Lang. We got him for a couple of games when I think we needed to, but no, it's a positive, mate. It's only going to bring on Geordie. I've already seen Geordie. He's working way harder this summer. He looks sharp already. It's only going to bring Geordie on and make him become, one of the best in this league as well. And I think he's got that ability to become that good.
Absolutely.
But look, if getting Dima is in no way negative in my mind. I mean, he's won again. He wins games on his own. He's done it against us so many times. And look, yeah, it's natural. People are going to get annoyed at times, or they want to play, and but that's, everyone knows, and they've been told, before we even sign, that we're here to do one thing, and it's win. And that's the goal, and that is all the goal that will be. And they're gonna have to get on board with it, and I know they already are. They're speaking to each other already, and yeah, it's great. It's early doors. It's the season hasn't started when it starts, and stuff starts getting annoying, and of course there's gonna be things like that, but it happens in every league in the world. The NHL, you think them second goalies don't want to play, more than they do. It's the way it goes, and look, when I've got a chance to sign Dimitris Demodre, I'm not
say no, are you?
I'm not gonna not take that chance. I'm never gonna say no to that. I'm always gonna take him because I know what he can do. He can win.
And it's another winner as well.
Another winner. And we've seen how good, Gozzi has been in Leeds, and I think he's a massive part of why they won 2 in a row. So yeah, for me, it's a massive positive, and again, I think a huge signing. If we're looking at sort of our D and where we're at with our D core, whether people think it's better or worse, I think it's so much better just purely because of him.
I think it's better, yeah.
So no matter what happens, I think because we've got him and we're solid there, I think, we're better on the back end.
Yeah. Go on, Chaz.
Let's move on to the new man on the block. there's been some things about Twitter. He's known as a classic hole player. He's had a fair few penalty minutes in his old leagues. It is Caden Hannas. He's only 24. He was actually partly in the UK, I believe. But yeah, he likes his penalty minutes. He's came from the ACAC and the WHL. What brought you to him, and how excited are you to have him on board?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think I knew this signing was probably going to go under the radar quite a lot. Which is fine for me. I don't need it to be a blockbuster. I think we've got enough big signings sort of out there. I think, the Brock signing last year was one that I thought again probably went under the radar, but people just needed to wait and see the level. And I've been speaking to Caden for, even during the season, I was speaking to his agent and getting video on him. And his mum's from Scotland, so that's why he's got the passport.
Okay.
So he's not trained over here and nothing like that. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, I was going to say that would be brilliant if he was.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but no, he's. You know what? He's a great kid. I've been speaking to him quite a lot. He's such a good, positive lad. He's always wanted to come over to the UK because of his mum was born in. And he knows a lot of. He's got friends that play in the elite league and stuff like that. So he's always had an eye on over here. He watches a lot of the highlights and watches the podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, he's clued up on it. He knows what he's coming into. Now. That league that he's from, I personally don't know it very well, but I've been speaking to a lot of people that do know it really well. One being Owen Sobchak. Obviously, Sob's played in that league. Dunbar played in that league. And I know that it's a very competitive side of Canada being in the West. Obviously, the U Sports gets a lot of, and that league's brilliant as well. And obviously, what you get in them leagues are people that obviously just want to go to university and get their degree, and obviously they're playing alongside of it. So we see a lot of really good players that do that. Caden stayed on the West because that's where he's from, and he played. He played in the WHL a little bit, but he didn't get the massive chance there. But he played in the AJ, which I know is a really good junior league. Again, another sort of connection. Brock played in that league, told me a lot about it. I did quite a lot of research on Caden, and I had other guys that I was looking at, and maybe there was what you would think on paper were a better player or a better resume.
Possible better CV. We mention it all the time, but actually there's more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think like this one was one that, look, it was, I knew sort of the lines and where we was going with sort of where the lines are, and I needed somebody, that was going to play like this. In my eyes, this is Finn's direct replacement in my eyes. Right-handed. They both are really good two-way players. I think they're going to put up similar numbers. And I think, what I have lost with Finn, obviously being a Brit, I think we've gained being able to bring someone like this in. I think his game's going to be more a little bit spit and sawdust, a bit more intense. He's going to fit straight into this style of play that we play, and this league is obviously a lot more North American style. I think what we've got is a fan's favourite in Hull. I think I'm not no doubt about that. He's going to come in, and I think he's going to make a real splash. Now, obviously, last year with Bobby Young, I know we had sort of someone coming in that was in the similar boat to that, and obviously played, what is recognised as a better league in the Division 1. But I think what we had with Bobby Young last year was someone that could, he could have been a really good player in this league, in this level, but I think the makeup around Bobby Young probably wasn't right at the time. And we needed someone with more creativity, and obviously we got Sobs in, which really, again, in my eyes, again, we've re-signed someone that's going to be, from the start, pre-season, he's going to be here all the time. He knows the players he's playing with. I think, for me, I think he's going to push Brownie pretty close for the points this year. So
got better points per game, didn't he? So
yeah, I think he's just that player. He's so smart. He's just a point to production player, and he'll put up some crazy numbers in my eyes this year, playing with, Emil for a full year, and obviously we know what Emil can do when he's playing with the right players and in the right mindset as well. So, I didn't need somebody of that same sort of offensive juggernaut of a player. I've already got that, and so this was a player that I needed to bring in that had a little bit more than just that offensive upside. He needed to be a little bit more than just that. So look, I'm really confident with Caden. I think he's going to be perfect for what we need. In this league, we've seen it. Barron last year, I think, was brilliant, and a big part of that Leeds team, an underrated part of it. I see Caden being similar to Barron.
Yeah, it's a very it's a whole signing, as Charlie said, and I'm sure the fans will get onto him straight away. Expectations then. We spoke a bit before starting recording. Be interesting to see what your expectations are. If you have some more players coming in, what your expectations might be on the team, which the fans don't know. So, what's your expectations for this season, building on from last season's success, I guess, in the cup?
Yeah, I think, look, we've got obviously a couple more announcements to do. We've got two probably, really big ones. One of them, I think, potentially, if it comes off, I think could be the game changer for us. And if we do get that one across the line, then I think, look, I think we're as good as anyone in the league. And I think, for me, in expectations aside, it's more, I want us to be a difficult team to play against every single night, and not have sort of, this constant. And I got sort of last year. I sort of had to take a little bit of during the season. I was getting too fixated on winning the end goal, the end thing, whatever that was, whether it's the league, the cup, and I had to stop myself doing it at times. And I think, this year it's gonna be, every game matters, and I think, just staying in the present, being very difficult to play against every night. And like I say, I think if you look at actually the numbers and why Leeds, I think, have won the league twice in a row, is they do not drop any points against teams that are, like we say, the middle to bottom ever. They never. I mean, we beat Leeds last year probably more than any team. I think Swindon maybe beat them the same, but they do not drop points against bottom to low end teams. They just do not do it, and that's, in my opinion, if you look at the points and how they gather points just week in, week out, that's how they do it. So yeah, every night we need to be, a difficult team to play against, whether it's home or away, it doesn't matter. And yeah, I think we've got the team to do it. And
I'm sure you'll be looking to get with the roster you've got as well, and the depth you've got, which maybe you didn't have at the back end of the last season. Playoffs, I guess, is a must for this season.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to obviously try not to be as arrogant as people think I am, I suppose, but I'm gonna be in this one. Yeah, I mean, that's just a given. If we don't make playoffs with this team, I mean, we'll pack up and go home, I think.
I was gonna we do a little thing on our podcast, and as you're the coach, I think you can you're able to do it. Have you got a Hull ones to watch? We often say like an underrated player who fans should keep an eye on, who maybe will have a breakout year, or even maybe just someone who fans don't appreciate enough.
Yeah, I have. I've probably got three, actually. I'm gonna do three. So
being greedy, everybody.
Yeah, I'm being greedy.
We were only allowed one each.
We got three altogether with us, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to do three. So Caden is massive. I think he's going to be massive for us. Like I say, massively underrated at this point. And again, you can talk as much as you want until we see him. We won't know. But I think he's going to be massive. Another one, which is sort of, someone that's coming on the scene, Reece Edwards.
Ooh, yeah.
We know a lot about Owen Bruton, obviously, GB, and he's shown how good he is at this level. I think he got the most points last year for his age group, actually.
That's good, yeah.
It was either him or Caps, I can't remember, but Brutes he's sort of cemented himself now in this league, and I think he's only going to get better. But I think Reece has got so much ability that I think he's going to be a real good player in this league if he keeps going where he's going. He's got a little bit more offensive touch to him than what Brutes has. Brutes has got that. Just he's sort of an elite player. He's perfect. Yeah, he does everything well. But Reece is a little bit off the cuff. He's a little bit more sort of great around the net. He's smart. He's working really hard this summer in the gym, and I think he's going to have a big year. And then probably I would say the last one for me, just ones to watch, which is probably going to surprise people, but Bobby Chamberlain.
Oh, okay.
We spoke about Bonner a little bit and sort of his year that he had. And I'm expecting massive things from Bones this year. I think him and Huey are going to have that relationship. Hopefully that'll bring him on.
I didn't think about that actually.
Yeah, and then but Bobby Chamberlain, I don't think we've seen anywhere near how good he can be. I'll go as far to say
it's not nice to hear actually as a rival fan.
Don't like that.
Yeah, still had a good season.
Can you send him to the Elite League?
Yeah. I don't think we saw is what he can do in MK. I'll be honest. He in my opinion, if he's fit, and I know he is because I've been training with him every day, I think he's right up there. He's top 10 in my book for this league, no doubt. And forgetting all the stuff around Bobby with the fighting and the being, we know what he does, we know what he's about, but that's Bobby. But I think the goal scoring part of it and the point production part is what people forget. Bobby's a 50 goal scorer in this league, no doubt about that. Playing with Sobs, I think we're going to see that he's raring to go. He knows that he was nowhere near his level last year. And it was tough last year. He had a couple of injuries, but yeah, Bobby, I think massive one to watch. If Bobby's good for us next year and as good as I think he can be, then we're danger.
Oh, yeah. Matty, thank you very much for coming on. You've said a lot of stuff which I'm sure has excited a lot of Hull fans.
I blab on a lot. I apologise, lads. Sorry.
No. We love it. We love it.
McCarthy of Hull.
Yeah, Charlie speaks for ages as well. But I'm sure the Hull fans are very excited, and it's probably made the fans of the rest of the league a bit nervous as well, as last year. Charlie, you always end with this question.
What is your message to the Hull Seahawk fans?
The message is we are doing our utmost to make this year and going forward just generally such a better match night experience on match night. I mean, we put out the other day that we've got the screen, not as big as Swindon's, but it's similar to Swindon's, and I think that's made a big difference. You'll attest to that, boys, and I think it's a massive part of match night experience for fans that. Look, we know the fans that come every week and they love it and they keep coming, but it's the ones that, maybe aren't coming or they've been once before and not come back. It's about grabbing them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, just come and watch us. Come and watch us early. We've got these Yorkshire Cup games. Come and watch. It's going to be fast and hard and we're going to go right from the off. And I think we're going to be a good team to watch this year. So stick with us and we're going to win.
Matty, thank you for hopping on. We appreciate it, and again, like Charlie said at the start, we appreciate all of your time and stuff you've given to us throughout the season, and even the people who do the recordings. They got me on the stream, which was really cool as well. So we appreciate that, and we'll see you. I'm not sure when we play Hull, but whenever we play you first, we'll come and say hello.
Yeah, come up, lads. Thanks,
Thanks, mate. Hello, welcome back. Thank you very much, Matty. I'm sure it was a really, really good interview. He loves talking, and I'm sure it's a long one for you guys to listen to. Next season, then, and there's been quite a lot of changes, probably some of the most changes from the teams in our league. And we're just going to go through position by position, who they've lost, who's not going to be returning, who they've replaced them with, who have they brought in. And let's just say they've had some really, really good adds, especially to the defensive core, which is what we said in the first half was maybe what they were lacking last season. But we'll start with the goaltenders, and they've had a massive upgrade. Obviously, they've kept Jordan McLaughlin, who was on a 2-year contract, and this is the second year of that too. and they've added Dimitri Zamozdra. 35 years old. We know what he's about. He's been in this league for a long time. He's won the playoffs with Sheffield. He's won some cups with Sheffield. He's a winner. And I think this will be the perfect replacement. Obviously, we had McLaughlin on a couple of weeks ago, Charlie. I think this is a really good backup to have. Someone who's a bit younger in McLaughlin, then you've got an old veteran next to him who can help him out, Charlie.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting tandem. And it's gonna be a tough year for both of them. Zamodra before this season was one of the top 2 goalies in the league save percentage, 2 years in a row in the National League. He won the playoffs. He's won a cup. He's got silverware under his bag. And he's not going to want to sit on the bench in the big games. He's going to want to be playing the likes of Leeds, MK. But then I know McLaughlin is as well. And so it's either going to bring out the best or worst in them. Who's going to survive under the pressure? It's going to be interesting. I really loved speaking to Jordan, and I really hope he takes on the challenge well. And I've had conversations with Zamodra in real life, and he's someone who's really relaxed, a really nice guy. So yeah, but I do think that I think McLaughlin will come in as a starter. I think he's a slightly younger guy. And I think from seeing Sheffield in the past, Zamodra doesn't always travel to every game as well. So I think McLaughlin will take quite a few. But I think it strengthens their goalie tandem. Again, that burnout which they had last year, which I think McLaughlin kind of mentioned.
Yeah, he did.
Was tiring at the end of the year. Like, you played so many games. I think he played all 54, apart from the game in playoffs. Well, more than that, you play 60. Plus 2 preseason. You're playing 65 games sometimes as a goalie. And that's too many. It is too many. And so if that load gets reduced to 40 and 25 or 35, I think it will get the best out of both goalies in an ideal world.
Obviously, we're looking at the positives here, Dan. Do you think there could be some sort of negative? But we've seen it work in the past. I mentioned Skins and Mar. You've got Skins as the veteran who still wants to play games, and you've got the younger Rennie Mar. Do you think that'll be a similar kind of goalie tandem with Hull?
Yeah, I think obviously there can be negatives. It could sometimes get a bit better, but I think both guys are both willing to win, and I think they're both guys that want the best for the team. Yeah. And I think they're going to go into the season and they're going to be working off each other. I think they're going to be pushing each other. They're going to be trying to get the best out of each other. And it's going to be all for the team because they're both team guys. They obviously both want to win. Zamozdra's been in those winning teams. He's won cups, like Charlie said. And McLaughlin still wants that with Hull. And I mean, if you're going to be bitter towards your goalie partner, what sort of team guy are you? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, they've signed the contract for a reason. They knew it was going to happen. Matty Davies has obviously spoken to them and told them what's going to happen. So they know what they're dealing with, and I'm sure they're going to take it in their stride and grow each other as well.
Yeah, I know there can be some negatives towards it, but actually I think this is really positive. You got a younger goalie in McLaughlin who's got plenty of years. This is probably the future goalie for Hull, and there's nothing wrong with Zamozdra coming in. If anything, when McLaughlin's having a tough time, he knows he's got a backup to come in and chill for a bit. And if McLaughlin does know that he is probably going to be the starter, then it just takes a bit of weight off it as well. But then, as Charlie said, Zamozdra is a winner. He wants to start games as well. He's not going to just want to play 5, 6, 7 games in the season, is he? So it'll be interesting. I think they'll have a starter. We don't know who it will be. Matty will choose. And I think they'll play until maybe one of them needs a rest or the other one needs to come in and get a bit more momentum. And yeah, I hope it works hand in hand. And
I think Zamodra's mature enough to understand if he doesn't play a game.
Yeah.
I think there's enough experienced players in that dressing room to kind of understand and speak to the goalies and have them conversations. And I think this tandem will work really well. And I think this is one of Hull's biggest positives of the season is, in my opinion, they got the best goalie tandem in the league in terms of on paper, 2 top-notch goalies. McLaughlin would start for quite a few teams, and Zamodra's a born winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments what you think. I think it's a really, really good goalie tandem. Let's move on to the defence then. So the defenders who are not returning next season, obviously you had Danskin who left mid-season. He's back at Solway. Thomas Barry, he has obviously gone to Sheffield. He's not going to be returning to Hull Seahawks. But there's quite a lot of re-signings, and then there's 3 new boys as well. So we'll start with the re-signings. Deck Balmer, we don't need to go into him too much, but he kind of went under the radar a tiny bit because of how good Brock was. But Deck was just as good, wasn't he, Dan? If anything, he was better defensively. And again, he played probably more minutes than he should have in this season. With the players who we'll mention in a second they've brought in, it takes the pressure off him a tad, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. He puts the work in every game.
Yeah.
Again, Matty's trusted him since day one. They work so well together, Balmer and Matty. He is just he's so young still. Like he's going into his prime ages now.
Yeah.
And he's still unreal. Like last season, like if you actually just watch him, the stuff that he does is almost perfect. Like he barely makes a mistake, and he's so good at being chirpy. He can be physical. He's good with his stick. Everything that you want from a D-man, he's perfect at. And even though he was playing all those minutes and stuff, he was still showing every game that he was there, and he was going to put 100% in.
Yeah, he still got 54 points last season, Charlie. A point per game as well. And we're saying he's the more defensive one, and he still manages to put that defensive game in. And I know Dan says, and I said that it'll be nice for him to get a couple more minutes off, but it does seem like he can just play as many minutes as he wants, and he doesn't really look out of breath, does he?
Deck Bomb, I don't care. He's the best British D-man in this league.
Wow, big statement. I can't disagree. He was the top scorer in British one last season, and
I don't think I'd
his
take
all-round game is.
over him. I think I'll say that how it is. I don't think he is so good, and like the best thing about him is I don't think there is a guy in the league who can just chunk minutes like him.
Yeah.
Apart from probably the new guy they signed.
Yeah, and we'll go on to that in a second.
35 minutes and not really feel it.
Another couple who have re-signed, Jamie Chilcott and Jordan Fisher. We both know what they're about. They've both played in this league before. I think they're going to be depthy pieces, third line defensemen down with the other demon they've signed, but they're not bad players to have. And considering they lacked D last season, it's nice just to have them in there. They'll put their all into a shift, and they love Hull as well, so they'll just die for the badge.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, like I said, depth. They need the depth, and even if they're not the best players, it still gives those top guys the rest, and that's obviously what Matty's doing. He learned from last season what he needs, and you can tell from who he signed that he's really focused on one part of his team.
So someone who hasn't actually signed as well, so I forgot to mention him, is Chris Wilcox. Again, he's kind of in the same boat as Jamie Chilcott, Jordan Fisher. So be interesting to see if they sign Chris Wilcox back again. I don't think, no, he's not on their signing list for next season so far. And the final guy who has re-signed, and I think this is a very, very important season for him. Obviously, he had his injury last season, which Charlie mentioned. That's Thomas Stubley. So he's still quite a young defenseman. He's 27 years old, but he still feels quite young, doesn't he? And he's been in this league for a few years now. I think this is quite a big year for him, isn't it, Charlie?
I don't really know what line he's going to play on. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he'll probably be their fourth or fifth D.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big year for him. It's a big year for that whole decor. Yeah. It probably wasn't quite up to scratch last year. They were relying on 2 guys for a lot of their decor. I don't think James Chilcott had his greatest of seasons, and I think he can be better. And so I think with a full preseason under the belt, with 7D signed, 6.5 in my opinion, because obviously Fisher
can play forward,
they should be much stronger, and like Dan said, depthier at the back. And I'm not going to spoil anything for the ones to watch later.
Yeah. Right. The new guys then, let's start with the big boy. It is Mr. Davy Phillips. Now, he might be quite old. He might be getting to the end of his career, 37 years old. But he's one of the greatest British defensemen we've had. And if you're looking for a shutdown D, Dan, he is your man. That is an unbelievable signing, and fair play for Hull and Matty for getting that one this season.
Yeah, the amount of experience this guy's going to bring to that decor is going to be unbelievable. Even to the forwards as well. I'm sure he'll be teaching everyone, but he's also got that assistant coach role as well. But I mean, if the guy can defend against Bedard, I'm sure he can defend against anyone. You know what I mean?
And
But
remember, he's defended for the last 10 years or even more against some of the best elite league players as well.
and he's always been in the names for the GB squad. He's never sort of been doubted to get into it. He's always been up there playing for GB, going to all the tournaments, and yeah, he's unreal to watch. I mean, I've watched a few GB games, and yeah, he's just so strong defensively, and I can't even imagine what he's going to be like in the National League.
He doesn't ever look out of place, really. His hockey IQ, I think, has kept him going at that top level for such a long time. And yes, he might be a bit slower. Yes, his legs might not hold up as well as when he was a bit younger.
For him, is quick in our league. I don't care.
Yeah, that's a good point. He comes down, it's probably a bit quicker, slower for him. Charlie, it's not a bad replacement for Brock. Obviously, I don't know if he will get the point output as Brock, but I think
their depth in D is more important. It is I think he can chuck up minutes. He's going to help them more on the PK. Probably wouldn't surprise me if he caught back their power play too. He's just going to be sick. Whoever you play him with, he's going to be really good. He's going to be a great asset to the league, and he bleeds Hull. He loves Hull. He had a good year in Belfast last year. I was speaking to him. He didn't get loads of points, but it's not about points in his role in Belfast. His Belfast role was a third pair shutdown D. He had a
penalty killer.
Plus minus. He was good. He did a good year, and Belfast fans said he could have played. He's in the Olympic GB squad qualifier. We've got a National League player in the GB squad. You don't see that. There's a reason why he is there. For me, it's exactly what Hull needed. It's meant they're able to get another import forward in.
Yeah.
There is a debate whether they should have gone import forward or import D, but they needed the forward as well after losing a couple. And it's one of the signings of the summer quite comfortably.
Yeah, we could talk so much more about it, and I'm sure Matty has pumped his tyres up a bit, because he should do, because he is. We need to respect him because of how he's been one of the best British players we've ever seen, and especially with quite a lot of lack of defensemen, which we've always talked about. He is up there, and he is going to help some of those younger D-men as well. Another player who's been added, who we know, he's a veteran of the league, is Mr. Lee Hayward. He obviously played for the Pirates back in the day, didn't he, Dan? He won the cup with the Pirates. Again, it's just another really, really good add, a veteran to add to that D-core. He can take up a lot of minutes. Yeah, it's a great signing.
Yeah, and the fans are going to love him in Hull as well. Hull love that kind of player. The ratty ones, they're their favourites. And he's going to love it that the crowd are going to be egging him on as well. But again, it's depth in D, and they've literally done the perfect summer, really, for what they needed.
Yeah, I think they were missing that third elite D defenseman in that team, and they've now got him. And because they've now got two veterans, they can almost nurture the younger lads which are in the team. Charlie, he is a rat, isn't he? Lee Hayward. But that is Hull's nature, isn't it? They can be ratty when they want to, and he'll fit straight back into that team.
I think he sent someone off against Hull, didn't he, last time?
Yeah.
He tweeted grass. But that was quite funny. He's a great character, and he's kind of what they needed. I think he's a good second pair defenseman. I probably, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't class him as an elite defenseman.
He's one of the top defensemen, I think.
I just class him as a good second pair defenseman. He is getting on. He is getting older, and his legs aren't going to be able to go for crazy minutes a night. But I think when he's on the ice, he'll be crucial. And I think they needed a player like him last year. They needed that depth in defense, and I think him on a second pair with Stubley or Davy Phillips or Barmer, I think he'll play a really crucial role in this Hull team. And like you said, they're just full of rats. The whole team is just full of them. They'll be so annoying to play against. When they're 3-0 up, they won't be 3-0 up and quiet about it. They'll be 3-0 up and tell you that they're 3-0 up and that they're better than you and that they're going to beat you and that they're going to beat you by more.
Then the fans will get behind it. It'll be more intimidating.
And yeah, the game I'm really excited to see, and I think many others will be excited to see, is Sheffield versus Hull this year. Lee Hayward, Barmer, All of them. They're going to just rat that game out. And it's going to be interesting to see how the youngsters of Sheffield come up against the veterans of Hull, who just like to be rats.
Yeah, one of the things I'm most impressed with Hayward, I think I've mentioned it before, in front of the net, he might not have the legs, but in front of the net, he'll just do all the dirty work. If someone tries to get on McLaughlin or Zamodra, he'll just chuck them about. He'll chuck them off them. He'll jump on them. He'll punch them. He'll push them. He'll do anything to get on their nerves. And he can just clear around that net. He just makes life easier for a goalkeeper, and they feel a bit more safe and comfortable. So he'll fit straight in. And the final one is Mr. Callum McGill. And again, I just think he's got that whole written in him, doesn't he, Dan? He'll fight when he needs to. He'll penalty kill. He said he'll put his face in front of a puck and take a few teeth out if he needs to. And I think that's exactly what Hull need on that third pair penalty killing. And it just takes the pressure again off Barmer. And I know they don't have Brock, but it just takes the pressure that they don't have to eat as much minutes because they can chuck him out on the ice against some of the good players.
Yeah, no, he's going to do a job. And yeah, like you said, he's going to do everything for that whole badge, and that's the perfect player that Hull needs. Yeah. They need players that are just going to throw everything on the ice. They're going to leave it all out there for the team. The goalie's going to love him because he's going to be blocking the shots. I'm sure Davy Phillips will work really hard with him, and all his young D men as well. And yeah, he's going to be a perfect player as well for that decor.
Yeah, it's safe to say, and I think we can all agree, lads, I think they have improved their decor in terms of depth. They might have lost a chunk of points from Brock, but I don't think, as you said, Charlie, I don't think Davy Phillips is just not going to score points. He's in a lower league now. He's still probably going to pick up, 25 plus points, do you reckon? Especially if he's on a power play?
On power play, he's getting 40 plus.
Really? Wow. Bold predictions from Charlie.
You're not bold. This guy is one of the best British defensemen we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, this guy shouldn't be messing about. He will be dishing pucks for fun. He's going to be a machine.
We might see him get a lot of assists. I think the way Matty plays as well. He's talked about how he just likes to get in people's face. Doesn't like messing about. He likes to get from zone to zone. And I think Davy Phillips is just going to be able to ping those passes to the likes of Svek, Sobchak, Chamberlain. I think it's going to be very, very fun, and Hull should be excited with that decor. On to the forwards then. Excuse me. A few players who they have lost, and I think these are quite key players who they have lost. I know they've replaced a couple, which we'll talk about in a minute. The first one, and we'll start with him, is Finn Ulrich. Obviously, he's gone to Sheffield with the Steelers and Steel Dogs. Dan, he was their second top point scorer last season with 78. He is going to be quite a big miss, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's really fast on that small ice pad in Hull, and he's an import point production wise, but obviously he's still classed as a Brit. Yeah, I think they loved him at Hull. I think Matty loved him because of he could just leave him out there on the ice and he'd just do it. And he worked really well with all the players that he was with on the lines. And yeah, it's going to be a big loss, but I think they might have filled up his spot quite well. And
I think what Charlie said, and we'll go into in a second, getting Davy Phillips and Hayward, it freed up that import slot for another forward to replace the points which they might miss with Ulrich, and they'll be hoping this new import will be able to fill that spot. Charlie, Towner, I think this is a very big loss, and it's not all about points with Towner, is it? It's a third line centre, and don't get me wrong, actually, he got 36 points last season, and he was playing third line for a lot of that season. He's just a leader. He was obviously their captain last season. It is going to be a very big loss without Sam Tone next season.
It's a huge loss. He's very, very good at hockey. He's perfect third line centre, and depth in this league is huge. And I'll say this. I think Hull lack. Ironically, I think they still got a sign or two to make. I think they lack a bit of forward depth. Now, I think they lack a bit of depth in terms of that experienced player like Salem or Towner to go on their third line, who they've missed. Towner was really consistent. He was also their captain. I'm sure they've got many players who can replace him, but it's their captain who's gone. I think that's a huge loss for them. And they'll miss that third line centre massively. You don't really have any third line centres better than him.
No, I agree. He's probably the best third line centre last season, unless I'm missing anyone. Maybe there's an MK depth player who we're missing. McEwen's not too bad, but yeah,
Wallace played there a couple of times.
yeah, he is so important. And the final one who you mentioned, Charlie, Nathan Salen, I know he's getting on a bit. That's a really good ad for Peterborough, but again, it's another depthy forward loss to Hull. And as Charlie said, obviously they might not have finished signing players. There's not too many lurking about, is there, Dan, of the quality of Toner and Salem to go on them depthy pieces?
No, definitely not. The caliber of them two is, I don't think they're going to be able to match it, to be honest. It could come and hurt them in the season. Obviously, having that forward, the depth in forward lost with them two players, but I think they are going to be solely relying on them, that top six, to be getting them points and getting them across the line. With obviously their really good decor as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and
they need that experienced player. I mentioned Doxy earlier, but they need someone who can run that third line as the level-headed centreman with Braden Jones. What's his name?
Brutton can play centre, but I think they are missing the depth veteran guy on that third line, because I don't know if you can win. I don't know if you can have just three youngsters, Edwards, Brutton, and Kent.
Experience head on that line, but then what's against them playing Bonner on the third line and having Brutton go into the top six? I don't know, but these things are questions which Matty Davies is going to have to find out. And but I think they got a very good team this year.
The key thing with these team episodes, obviously we've got to get them out, otherwise we'll run out of time before the season starts. So the rosters might not be fully complete, but we're picking the teams which are nearly complete or we think are complete. So after we've made this, they might make a signing at the end of the week, and it solves all of what we've just said. But it is going to be a loss with Salem and Towner. Let's move on to the team, the players that they have kept. We've mentioned quite a few more already, and we'll mention the three youngsters. They've obviously got Owen Brutton back, who's improving every season. They've got Declan Jones, who ended the season really, really well. And they've obviously got Reece Edwards on a full time as well. And he looks like an exciting youngster. And then they've got some really, really good guys in their top six. Now, Lee Bonner, Charlie, obviously you mentioned him. We think he's going to have an improved season this season. He should be fully fit. He's going to have that full pre-season, which I think is important. And we assume that he'll play that top six role again. He might drop onto third line to give a bit of experience to that. He's back. We've got Alex Kent, who's on a two-way. He's still a young lad. Bobby Chamberlain, we all know about. He's re-signed. And Emil Svek and Sobchak are the imports. Dan, are there any which stand out to you? Well, they all stand out really, and they're signings you'd expect them to re-sign going into next season.
Yeah, you sort of, especially Chamberlain, you sort of expected him to come back. Sobchak after last year, I'm sure a lot of teams looked at him, but he did obviously sign that contract earlier on in the year. But yeah, they're the signings that they had to make. I think they had to re-sign those players to obviously build on what they had last season.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple new boys then, and we'll start with the imports, and his name is Caden Hanas. And judging by his stats and his penalty minutes, which he got quite a lot in his last season, I think he will fit straight into Hull. Now, he hasn't played in the traditional U Sports or NCAA, which we see a lot of imports from Canada or America coming over, Charlie. But he did have a season in the WHL. He played 21 games in that, and then he's played 3 seasons in the ACAC. I'm not an expert on these leagues, Charlie, but it's a league in Canada which Matty Davies obviously trusts him to come in and do a job in our league.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's the greatest import we've seen in terms of CVs. I think he looks okay. And like you said, he likes his penalty minutes. He's definitely going to chuck his body around. He's only 24, 5'10". I just think it'll be decent. Like that's my expectations aren't ridiculously high for him. They've got 2 imports who one scored 100+ points and the other one was on pace to comfortably do that. So, and they got Bobby Chamberlain in that as well. So I think this guy needs to come in and he needs to help fill that void of Salem or Uric and chuck his body around, have a good time. And Yeah, I don't think my expectations of this guy to score over 70 points, but I think this guy can score a point a game and do a good job for Hull.
The thing with these, Dan, is when you've never watched a player before, they like Bobby Young, they might come in and it doesn't quite work out for him in terms of hitting the ground running. This guy could come in, he might not have as good a CV as some of the other imports which have been signed, but he might just fit in straight away with that whole dressing room, and everything on his stick might turn to points. You just don't know, and that's why it's so hard to judge some of these imports. And all we can judge them on is what leagues they've played in and comparing them for other imports. But we know that doesn't really matter in terms of actually fitting into a team, does it?
No, exactly. And obviously, I've seen the video that obviously Hull put out for the signing video, and he looks like a really good skater. Got really good hands, a really good shot. Obviously, he's going to have that Canadian hockey IQ as well.
Yeah.
I think he has definitely got the potential to be up there with some of the best imports in the league.
Yeah.
But like Charlie said, obviously you don't know. His CV isn't as good. But again, like you said, CV doesn't really matter, because we saw Bobby Young. He had a good CV, but sort of it just didn't seem right for him.
Yeah.
Some players can go through a really, really good season and have like the best career year of their season, and Hull just might be the right team for him. And like you say, he might just find his game and really show it for Hull.
And as Charlie said, I think this is quite key. Matty Davies has got the two imports who he trusts with points. And Sobchak and Svek ain't just going to suddenly drop off a cliff. They're still going to be able to pick up those goals and assists. And I'm really excited to see Sobchak for a full season in Hull, because last season he was ridiculous. He was pulling some moves off. He's got his Sobchak special with his breakaway where he does his backhand. Me and Charlie, we love that one. But he got 19 points in his last season, his best in those 3 seasons. So it'll be very interesting to see what he's like. And I think he's going to be one of those players who wants to make a name for himself, and he'll enjoy it in that whole barn with the fans. Absolutely, he will. So, it'll be interesting to see where he plays, who he plays with. I assume it will be on second line, because I don't think Matty will split up that Svek, Sobchak and Chamberlain line, because it works so hard. But he might. We never know. We never know who will fit in. And then the other player who's come in is Mr. Jason Hewitt. And again, like Hayward, he's getting on a bit, but he still can put up points. He knows where the back of the net is. His hockey IQ is ridiculous. He's played for the Steelers. He's won the playoffs with Sheffield. He's won the cup with Sheffield. It's a very good signing again, and that fills the gap of a player they've lost, doesn't it, Charlie?
Yes, you get what you've said. It's not much more to say about Hewitt. He's a great player.
And again, Dan, he's played for Hull. He's won the playoffs with Hull. He's won trophies with Hull. All the Hull fans, when he's playing for them, they love him. Obviously, he can be a bit of a rat if you're playing against him, but he'll fit straight back into that dressing room. I think that's key in what Matty Davies has done this season. He's not just brought in some random players who've been really good. He's brought in players which he knows will work as a team. I think that's going to be so key this season if they want to get some success.
Yeah, 100%, because it's not always the best players that win your game. It's the team. You need the best team.
Yeah.
And they're going to really come together, I'm sure, in them tough games. They're going to really pump each other up. And you've obviously got them guys in there. You've got a variety of guys. You've got some gritty guys. You've got some winners in there. You've got some really level-headed guys. And they're all going to come together. And I think, they're going to be a really, really strong squad. Hull was always hard to go to anyway. And I think it's going to be a lot harder now. And I think on the road, they're going to be, obviously they got them long journeys, same as like all the Northern teams. They're with each other a lot. But they're all going to come together, and they're going to fight for every player, and they're going to really fight for their spot as well.
Yeah. Expectations then. Let's move on to that. Obviously they made the final last season. They didn't do too bad in the first leg. Obviously the second leg it all caught up to, and MK were really good on the night. They didn't make playoffs last season. I'll start with you, Charlie. What's your expectation for Hull this season? Improving the defence, getting that backup netminder in, and still keeping some of those point scorers.
A top 4 finish with a final.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Dan,
I think it's got more competitive. That's my problem with it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Hull have improved in areas, and in my opinion, weakened in others. I do think they have slightly weakened in the forward area. I may be proven wrong. Do I think Hewitt can get Ulrich's points? Maybe. Do I think Sobchak will keep up the points he had last year for a whole year? No. Do I think Svet will get 100 again? Probably not.
Very positive then.
But I think their decor is so much better and their goalies are really good. Yeah, I'd say they want to get to another cup final. They want to do what they did last year. They could challenge for the league. They have to be really consistent and on it. But injuries are going to be tough for them if they hit them. The same for most teams in the league, bar two.
Yeah.
That's how it is. But yeah, I'd probably say for them, I think Davies will say this. I think they'll want a top 3 finish in the league. My expectations would be top 4, but they'll say top 3. I think they'll want to make playoffs no matter what. I think that's a minimum. And I think they'll want to qualify for the cup minimum. And I think they'll either want to make COV final or playoff or cup final in one of them two.
Dan, what's your expectations for them this season? And I'll give a couple words on them.
I think they're going to, like Charlie said, top 4 finish. I think they're going to go for that again. I don't see why they can't go for that, maybe higher. Cup, I think they're going to be really good. I think them one-off games, they're going to be really good. I think they're just going to turn up and really, really go for it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a final for the cup or a semi-final, because like Charlie said as well, the teams have got better. Playoffs as well, definitely going to be wanting to make it to Coventry at least, if not make it to the final. They need to. We've obviously talked about their grittiness in them players. They need to watch out for penalties. We know what penalty minutes can do to teams, and we know giving up too many penalties can really cost you in wrong times of a game. If it gets a bit heated, it gets a bit intense, and then players sort of go over the top and really give away them penalties. That could be tough. But their decor will 100% be better. They're definitely going to show it as well. They're going to be rested more. The goalies are going to be rested. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they went for higher in the league. But, yeah I reckon that's my prediction.
I kind of echo what you said. I do think they're going to want to win a cup. If we're talking about actual expectations, they're going to want to win a cup, whether that's the playoffs or the actual cup itself. I think they will want to be competing for the league. And I think this season, Matty's taken a different route in terms of, I think they're going to try and win more games, conceding less goals, and that's going to be what's going to win them games. I've said so many times, they've got no problems with scoring goals, especially at home. They can just absolutely rattle through teams and catch them 2-3 goals in 5 minutes. They can do that easily with the players they've got and the fans and the building they're in. I think what's going to be key is those away games, shutting it down, getting Davy Phillips, Hayward, Barmer, McGill, Stubley as well. Just shut it around the goalkeeper in those smaller rinks and grinding out those results. And I think that's going to be what's key and what's going to get them more wins next season. So I think that's going to be the difference this season to last season. I think it's just going to be able to shutting down games. And instead of winning games 7-4, 7-5, 6-4, 6-5, they're going to be winning games 3-2. 4-2, you know what I mean? Those lower scoring games. I think that's going to be key in the next step for them. So I expect them to make playoffs. I expect them to try and push for a cup final, and I expect them to get a top 4 as well with the team. And I do think they need to add a couple more experienced players to play on that third line. But I think it's a very exciting season next season for Hull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also think, obviously, like you were saying with the goals as well, you're taking that pressure off of forwards as well. If you're conceding, say, 5 goals, you're relying on them forwards to get 5 or more goals. Yeah. If you're conceding 2 goals, you only want the forwards to get 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like, exactly, defense is what wins you games. Defense is the best offense, and if you can stop it from going in your own net, the goals will come in the other net 100%.
Absolutely, and yeah, be interesting to see. Let us know in the comments, what do you think the expectations be for Hull? Ones to watch then. One player. We might have a same player. If we do, we can change it to one. But who wants to go first with the ones to watch and a little explanation?
I'll go first.
Charlie, then go on.
My ones to watch is Callum McGill.
Ooh, okay.
I think it was a huge signing for Hull. Probably one of the most underrated signings out there. I think Callum McGill gets into most teams in the league. I think Callum McGill is the perfect shutdown defenseman. And we were talking about last year what Hull missed. He's exactly what Hull missed. A player who you can just put on the ice. And yeah, he may not bag you 4 goals, but they don't need 4 goals. They have the goals. They need a guy who can play penalty kill, who can shut down games. And that's exactly what Callum McGill brings them. And then the best thing about Callum McGill is he gets to learn from probably the greatest British defenseman to ever shut down games. So he's not going to do too bad at shutting down games without teaching with him. So, yeah, I think it's a great move from Matty Davies getting McGill in. And I think maybe not be the most exciting ones to watch because he's not going to score more than 4 goals probably, but he's going to have a great impact on Hull. And the people who understand hockey, in my opinion, will understand McGill is a huge signing. And he's not the flashy guy, but he's the guy you need to win your cups.
Yeah, that's a good ones to watch. Dan, who have you got for ones to watch?
I'm going to go for Owen Bruton.
Okay.
Because obviously, like we said, they've lost Towner, they've lost Salem. He's had that shot at GB. He had a really good season last year, I think. And he really showed what he can do in some games. But yeah, he's going to be looking now because obviously they've lost Salem and Towner. He's going to be looking. I want that spot. I want to be the guy that can fill in for them. And he's going to wanting to show Matty. Matty obviously has trust in him, and he obviously loves it in Hull. He's also going to be pushing himself in his career because he is getting to that spot now where he needs to be looking at GB.
Yeah.
Because he obviously had that shot, and I've listened to a few interviews of him, and he does really care about that GB spot.
Yeah.
And obviously the only way to push yourself is if you show it through your club games, and he that spot is open now, and any of them young players, but especially him, is open for him, and he's going to be going for it and fighting for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with the boring one. I'm going to go with Owen Sobchak. I think he is their most. I could have gone with Stubley, but you guys have gone with some younger players. I'm going to go with Sobchak purely because he had the best points per game last season. I think he is not talked about enough as one of the best players in the league. Point scoring wise, I think he's ridiculous on the puck. His playmaking. Yes, it's boring going with probably their best player, but I think if they are lacking on offense, it's going to be important for him as well to pick up those points and carry on the point production he got last season, so they can still win those games. And I just think he's quite underrated in terms of the play. He's an unbelievable player. I just don't think he ever gets talked about as one of the best in the league, and I think he is one of the best in the league. So yeah, I'm going with Owen Sobchak. I can see Charlie moaning how boring that is, but
from Jack there.
What did you say?
When I go for Leeds, I'm going for Kieran Brown. When I go for
no,
I'm going for Malazinski. When I go for Bees, I'm going for Gabai.
Oh yeah.
What about Ballas?
I'm going with Sobchak. But no, some good ones to watch there. I think there's quite a few you could pick up. I think Bonner as well. He's got another improved season. So yeah, I've gone with Sobchak. Charlie's gone with McGill, and Dan's gone.
I think Hull are going to have a fun, exciting year, and I think it's never boring in that rink, and I think their fans will love it. And I know, and I'll say this now because I know Hull fans will do it. They won't be a huge fan of our expectations. I think Hull's fans' expectations are slightly higher than ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Hull can do. I do think that some of the teams in the league have got better this year, which makes it more competitive in some elements. So yeah, it'll be a good season, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a toughie going up to Hull, innit? We could see a really, really good home record up in Hull. And I think the battles between them, Leeds and MK, are going to be even spicier with some of the players they've added in. So, yeah, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. I think it's flowed quite well as our first team special. We will have a few more popping out whenever. It might be literally in 3 days' time. I know we're going to be recording a couple interviews and a couple team specials in the next couple of days to post out, but we could see 2-3 episodes a week possibly. So yeah, let's hope these rosters start getting filled up. Lads, have you got anything else to add?
It was quite a long episode. I don't think we plan to do them this long for all of the.
Well, we'll see. I know people like listening to them.
Yeah.
Dan, you got anything to add?
I'm looking forward to the hockey.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Hull fans, we hope you've enjoyed this episode, and fans around the league, we hope you've listened as well. I think it's really interesting to hear about the other teams as well, which you're going to be facing. So yeah, keep us subscribed on YouTube. keep up with our socials on Insta, Twitter and Facebook at Macca's Talk Hockey. We're going to be doing every team special as well in the next few weeks. So we hope you've enjoyed this one. And thank you again, Matty. Peace.